I'll tell you guys, if there is anything that would get me to shitcan Streamlabs, it would just be that annoyance that they do that all the time. We just streamed yesterday. I opened Streamlabs up again today and didn't bother to check first, and they turned my mic off in the settings. They do it all the fucking time. Uh, Bobby's in Badlands and Sora Clam and Sam Spazdev is a rooster. Jay the real McCoy, Ashley's in Poppy, Mr. Andrew, CDV, Sam. Yeah, I'm gonna go on a little bit of rant today, and it started because of something I read. Did you guys? I don't know if you guys are aware that the company that produces, excuse me, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the books, that they're going to go through and tidy things up by removing potentially triggering words like fat and crazy. And what the fuck is going on with society? And the reason I bring this up, and we'll get into it more, is it's early in the stream. A lot of people haven't been notified that are going to be yet and everything, but there's nothing wrong with the word fat. It's a descriptive term and it's an accurate term. And softballing this stuff or trying to censor these words doesn't help anybody. Anybody. We have become so amazingly soft as a society. And that's why I say I'm fat. I don't understand why that should be a something offensive to me. It's entirely accurate. I'm under 6 feet tall and almost 300 pounds. Why am I fat? Because I don't tend to exercise much and I eat a lot of shit. There's no mysteries here. And it's not a bad word. It's a perfectly normal, everyday descriptive that's been around forever. But no, it'll hurt somebody's feelings. Who gives a fuck? It's not a slander. It's descriptive. Jay the Real McCoy says, you're not fat, you're just harder to hit with that armor on. Actually, believe it or not, I will say this, for whatever reason, I found, because my weight fluctuated during my wrestling career, it seemed like I was able to absorb the bumps better with the extra weight on. Wasn't quite as nimble, but it just seemed like it was almost a shock absorber type thing. Exactly, by love. Words are words. It's how and when you use them. Yes, I couldn't agree more. And fat is never a slander. Can it be something said in a derogatory fashion? Sure, but most any word can. You can pick anything out about someone, whether real or imagined, and make it a slander. You can be in a room full of people with brown eyes and have somebody say, ooh, look, it's that blue-eyed fuck. And now blue eyes is a slander. It's not a slander, it's accurate. It's kind of shitty to say something like that because who cares if they have blue eyes? But it's the exact same thing. Damien says, makes me think of when a total Karen angrily went to a lawyer wanting to ban the word Karen. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I didn't even hear about that one, Damien. That is the ultimate in Karenisms. You have to be a Karen to do something like that. You absolutely have to be. And I read this, and tell me if you guys agree. Now, I got something I wanted to lay out here for you guys, and I'll check the chat. I want to see if you guys agree with this. I think this is in large part, in America anyway, why we have a lot of the issues we do with the violence that we have and with kids acting out the way they do, whether it's school shootings or just violence within the school, is we're trying to bubble-proof the world for everybody. And the world isn't like that. So when a kid can't come to grips with the fact that they might be fat, and again, that's not to say that you have to demean them, be mean to them. It's just a descriptive term. But when you're so worried about every term hurting somebody's feelings, when the inevitability of life crashes down and they aren't protected from something, I don't think they know how to react. So they lash out. There's nothing wrong with the word fat. There's nothing wrong with the word crazy. That word's being taken out of the books too. Crazy is a very descriptive term. Crazy would generally describe something that is far away from the norm, typically potentially hazardous, or certainly at least what would classically be concerned as bizarre. So it's crazy. I think all of us have done crazy things at some point. I think all of us are crazy at a certain level, depending on how you define the word. But there's nothing slanderous or scary about the word. Don't say crazy. It's a stigma. It'll make just say that this person is otherwise focused. No, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean the person was otherwise focused. I meant that bitch crazy. And there's nothing wrong with that. If I call you crazy and you don't think you are, you're welcome to fire back at me. Say, shut up, fat boy. You won't offend me because I am fat. But you can fire back. But there's no reason to hide from the word. Zombie says, what about nipple? Lick says, Curtis, watch your tongue as a serial killer. The word crazy is highly offensive to me, and I prefer you didn't use it. Yeah. And I'll give you guys another example. For years, I worked, I told you guys, I worked for the city of Amsterdam, New York, in the public works department. For years, I hung off the back of a garbage truck, throwing garbage into the hop. And I was also a union rep. And I was across the table. I'll get right to your next post, Damien. I was a union rep. I was across the table from the mayor and their attorney, so on and so forth. And we're talking, and I don't remember how it came up, but the city's attorney said, so I understand you're a sanitation engineer. I said, oh, what? He says, you're a sanitation engineer, with a little wink, nudge, nudge in his eye. You know, he was offering up a little bit of a flower to the to the poor untrodden, or the poor unwashed masses. That would be me. I said, no. I said, I'm a garbage man. I'm not an engineer. Trust me, there's not an engineering school in the country that would have accepted me. And if they would have, they should be defunded immediately. And he goes, well, it just sounds nicer. It sounds more polite. I said, no, it doesn't. I said, it sounds asinine. I said, I'm a man. For a living, I pick up garbage. I am a garbage man. That title fits perfectly. I'm proud of it. I like my job. I'm damn good at it. I run my ass off, man. I will pick your garbage up in a fucking hurry. It sounds to me like you have a problem with me being a garbage man, because I don't. And he got his fifis all hurt. But it was the same exact thing. I was supposed to be offended by being called a garbage man. That's what the fuck I was. That was my job. It's perfectly on the nose descriptive. This shit is, and I swear to you guys, it's what's softening us all up. It's what's making this country so soft, and in larger sense, the world so soft. Everybody feels like they should never have their feelings hurt, and everybody else needs to go out of their way to make sure that they never hit a bump in the road. That's not how life works. What happened to it being 2023? How have you not figured out how descriptions work? Damien says, yeah. I mean, these are, there are plenty of slanders out there that are hideous. Obviously, the top of the list is the N-word. Those are slanders. That's when you're slandering someone, because the word only exists to demean someone else. Fat is just a descriptive term for somebody who is overweight. That's the dictionary definition of it. It's not a slander. And if you don't like it, who cares? It's all part of that same thing. We're too worried about other people being offended. Who gives a shit if somebody's offended? Who cares? If somebody's watching this right now, and there's a good chance that this could be the case, and they're offended by what I'm saying, so what? You can tell me in the comments. You can tell me why you're offended. You can tell, and I'll have a conversation with you if you're civil about it. Or more likely, you can just move on, because fuck that fat guy. Fuck that fat garbage man. I don't want to listen to what he says. But who cares that you got offended? Move on to something that you find inoffensive. Bruner says, you wonder if porn stars get offended at being called porn stars. Actually, Bruner, I know a lot of, yes, I know of people in that industry who have said they're adult entertainers. They are not porn stars. And I don't have, I'll be the first to tell you, I have no problem. I'm not the moral police. I have no problem. Whatever you want to do to put the bread on your table, go for it. I don't care what it is. I have huge respect for somebody that works at McDonald's. I have huge respect for somebody that works in the porn industry. I have respect for people that hang off the back of garbage trucks and throw garbage. Do what you want to do to get by in life, to make your money. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, have at it. But are you a porn star? Yes. If you are in pornographic videos and you are a featured player in those videos, you are indeed, by definition, a porn star. If you don't like it, so what? So what? It's not a slander. It's an accurate description. DE Domain says, I'm offended that these people think their opinions are moral defining law. 100%. I honestly believe this is a microcosm of a lot of the issues we have here in America and obviously throughout the world as well. Society has become very soft. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what type of society in this current world that you grow up in. Sometimes there's going to be bad shit that happens. Sometimes things are going to happen that you don't like. Sometimes life is just gonna suck. It's not going to be fun, but you got to get through it. And trying to bubble proof everything for you is just going to make that fall harder when it hits you in the face. TimeLink says, if you don't like what you're called, change occupations. Right. Right. Change occupations, but demanding, again, me as a garbage man, like I'd run around demanding people call me a sanitation engineer or even a sanitation worker. I mean, that's accurate too. I did work in the sanitation department. So if somebody wanted to refer to me as a sanitation worker, I'm not going to get mad. It's also an accurate description, but it doesn't need to be used in place of garbage man. That's what I was. I was a garbage man. And as I said, as of now, I'm a fat man. Why is it? I can't wrap my brain around it. Why do we think people need to be protected from words like fat or crazy or porn star? And I am not typically I'm an old fart, but I'm not one of these old, well, back in my day guys at all. But the one thing I can say that I'm seeing is, and it's not everyone, you can tell that by here in the comment section. I don't even think it's a majority of people, but you have a significant number of people who do not want to face that reality. They want reality to be blurred. You know, if you're 4'2" and 450 pounds, you're not fat. You're just plus sized. You're plump. All that may be true, but fat is true as well. And it's not a slur. Nobody's slurring you. I guarantee you. I will let you guys know in the next stream. I guarantee you, I would bet you money, put it that way, just because the title of this stream has fat in it, YouTube will demonetize it. You watch. Momo says, you're very open-minded. I don't know about open-minded. It's just, I think, practical. You can't hide from some things. And to me, I don't see the difference. You mean to tell me, as a fat guy, if somebody comes up to me and says, geez, Curtis, you're fat, that's going to be offensive. But if they come up to me and say, geez, Curtis, you weigh a lot more than you should, then I'll be okay with it because the F word wasn't involved. I'll be like, thanks for noticing. But if you say I'm fat, then it's like, I need a safe space. You hurt me. I'm fucking fat. Classically, Christian says you're a bowling ball if you're 4'2" to 400. Kind of true. TimeLink says women get the plus size comments. Us guys are called fat. Yeah, and now don't get me wrong. I think if somebody feels that it's more polite and they want to be polite to someone, and they're talking about specifically, let's say a woman, and they want to say, yeah, she's plus size. I don't have a problem with them saying that. That's not the point. My point is getting rid of the word fat, having to hide from it, having to take it out as they are doing, having to take it out of established literature because it might trigger somebody is fucking unbelievably asinine. And anybody who's a part of it, anybody who suggested doing it, is doing a disservice to society, period. And they're a pussy. Oh, is that offensive too? I don't care. Yeah, exactly, Zane. You're not fat, you're plus size. Yeah, geez, thanks. Guess what? I'm still at high risk of heart attack because I'm carrying way too much weight for my size. So just get to the point. I'm fat. Oh, that's 100% true. Lick says, I feel like it's more meaningful to teach future generations the meaning behind these old books and why their words and messages are outdated than it is to change it and act like it never happened. Oh, 100% across the board. But even then, I don't think you need to phase out the word fat. I don't think future generations need to look back and say, oh, they used to use that F word. No, it's not a bad word. If you're saying especially when you're talking about a fictional character, yeah, that character, I'm sure that it came out because of the what the hell's his name? It's the German kid, wasn't it? The fat kid in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Let me put it this way: if I was talking about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the book or the movie, and I said, "Oh, what's the name of the kid who the German kid who ate too much?" Or not? What's his name? Who is that? Who is that kid? You'd say the fat kid, because it would be accurate. Solara says, you know who else is fat? My mom. Later, anytime you can get a Muscle Man reference in there, it's great. YouTube is asking me to put a freaking ad up, guys. So all of you won't get it. I just got to click this button because, again, since I've been bending to their wishes, we've been getting more notifications going out. So I just clicked for an ad. Augustus Gloop. Yep. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Now, again, be honest. If you couldn't remember his name and you wanted to quickly describe the character to someone, hey, that kid from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, would you say the fat kid? Because I would. And I don't have any issue with it. And I certainly wouldn't apologize for it. Isn't that an accurate description? Because if you tell me, hey, the fat kid from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I know exactly who you mean. So the word was appropriate. It was accurate because I would know exactly what you're saying. You got a Yu-Gi-Oh ad, Licks? That's interesting. Yes, we are talking about progressives rewriting books, Chrome, and I'm pissed. I've had just enough of it. Ruthie Rainbow says, as someone who has trust problems, I hate when someone shoves demands, challenges, contradictions, overly sappy euphemisms, things suggesting my anger is inappropriate. Anything expressing a lack of empathy for me, anything that personalizes me or my problem, attempts to shut down confrontation, or anything to diminish my issue down my throat. That's well put, Ruthie. How do I feel about the term fat camp? Fat camp, I feel it's perfectly descriptive, perfectly appropriate. It's a camp where fat people go to try and lose some weight, right? Now, again, if you wish to call it something else, go ahead. But I think fat camp pretty much describes it perfectly. And I don't see anything offensive about that. So if a kid goes, or even an adult, if somebody goes to a fat camp and it's not called fat camp, does that mean they're no longer fat? Or can you not be fat by just not identifying as fat? I mean, if we're just going to start talking wishes and dreams here, Hornby Man says it's okay to be fat. Well, 100%. 100%. And it's okay that that's the term used to describe it. Look it up in the dictionary. That's what it means. It means overweight, obese. So what's next? Are we not, and this is going to sound like trying to be outrageous, but I don't think it is. So is it soon going to be we can't call people short? because it's offensive. Now, short would mean anybody who is not as tall as the larger percentage of people of their gender. So could we get to the point where you can't call them short anymore? You have to call them vertically challenged or something? Exactly. Hornby says he loads of junk, I'm going to get fat. Right. I say I'm a fat guy. I know why. I don't get enough exercise and I eat shit. I'm 5 pounds less fat than I was 2 weeks ago because I started getting some exercise and started eating a little less because I felt like I couldn't move. But I still got a long way to go before I ain't fat. Raziel says modern equals whiny BSPC, also high. Yeah, and again, the part that bothers me the most is I think we're really hamstringing humanity with things like this. You can't keep doing this, especially as kids are growing up. You can't protect them from everything. You protect them from any real harm that you can. I mean, we've come in my years. We've made huge strides. Excuse me, in protecting kids as best we can from bullying. That's admirable. But when you start trying to protect kids from viewing or consuming, reading words that are perfectly descriptive words, you're overstepping. And you're just setting them up for an eventual fall because the world, by and large, is not going to protect them, and it's not going to give a shit if what is said to them or is done to them hurts their feelings. So you might as well get used to it and learn to deal with it. And that's the bottom line to a lot of this, learning to deal with it. For instance, if somebody does say something to me, typically the only way I could even describe it as being offensive, I can see you being offended if you're called something that you are not. You know, if I weighed 150 pounds and somebody called me fat, then I could see being offended by it because it's not fat. But even with that said, who is hurt? I mean, who is hurt by these specific words? It blows my mind. Alpha says, first comes barbarism, a state of conquering, then civilization, a state of law and order. Then comes decadency, where cultures tend to fall into decay and society turns in on themselves. Happened many times in history. Due to the cursed stagnation and petty intolerances due to human nature of seeking conflict from a survival instinct and evolutionary perspective. And we've seen exactly that happen repeatedly throughout history. Chrome says, well, I see you didn't see all the changes then, Curtis. Yes, you can't refer to someone as small or short now. And you can't call a spider black or a worm pink. Get out of here. Wait a second. You can't call a spider black or a worm pink? Now colors exist, actual realistic colors of creatures are offensive. It's something that I think needs to be stopped. I mean, the unfortunate thing is the majority of us in society, we talk about this like we are, and you get annoyed by it, but we generally laugh it off. These people they need to be confronted and told that they're stupid. And this stuff really needs to be headed off. Somehow, some way. Hopefully it'll start hitting someone in the pocketbooks, because that's the only way things change. You're worried about having the word fat in a book that, how many decades has Charlie and the Chocolate Factory been around? And now the word fat, the word crazy, or from what Chrome's saying, a pink worm or a black spider, now that's too much for someone to handle. And the thing I hate the most is anything that's talked about when they say, well, we had to change it because it might be triggering. Who gives a fuck? Who cares if somebody's triggered? Big deal. Get over it. Or don't get over it. Who cares? But the rest of us don't have to tap dance, don't have to tread lightly because your little fifis might get hurt. Fuck your little fifis. Damien says, I was already watching vids of insecure people throwing temper tantrums before this. I was inadvertently at the ready for this. You were doing research without even realizing it, Damien. Solara says, look, I'm all okay for an empathetic society, but then there's being redundant. There are people who are actually being screwed over by society and we're wasting time that could be used elsewhere. Right. And again, there are new people coming in all the time. So I'll say this again. I'm not saying that if someone is overweight, you have to describe them as fat. I'm not saying that at all. If you feel like using other terms because you think it's more polite or whatever, cool. That's fine. But when we cross that line into saying that this word is bad, this word is a slur, and it must be removed from existing places already in society, then you stepped over a line into just blatant stupidity. That's all it is. It's asinine. It's ridiculous. And if somebody is triggered by the word fat in that story, who gives a shit? So be triggered. Again, life is going to be tough. It doesn't matter who you are and where you are. There's going to be times where life is tough. Learn to deal with it. Lunatic says, companies that sell products in Spanish have faced a lot of backlash over selling any products that have Negro in their name. Yeah, because now I guess we have to be careful that the ways a word or a phrase in your language might be too close to something offensive in somebody else's language. And the thing that gets me is that maybe it's changed. Could very well have changed. I've told you guys before, I used to do stand-up for a living in the 80s and 90s. I used to have a lot of humor that would be considered harsh because I find that, you guys know me, I find that kind of stuff funny. I find stereotypes funny. In all that time, and I've told you this, I have never had anybody within a group I was talking about come up to me and tell me they were offended by it. Not that I would have cared if they were, but I haven't. I have had people not of that group, typically white folks, typically women, come up to me and tell me they were offended on someone else's behalf. And that never worked out for them well either. I always got reported to a manager afterwards after I laughed at them and demeaned them for being a pussy. But what my point to that was, I think the majority of people actually have a sense of humor about who they are, what they are. And if you don't attack them specifically, if you're making fun of a stereotype or a generality or a perception, I think most people are like, they're just willing to laugh along with you. And if it's not funny to them, I think the majority of people don't get offended by it. They're just like, not a particularly funny joke. But it's the ones who are the loudest are that small minority. The people who feel like they need to rewrite classic literature because some of the words might hurt somebody's feelings. Timelink says, yeah, I agree with that and extend that to pronouns. You can't force people to call you anything or not call you anything. I agree with that too. It may be considered more polite to indulge someone like that, but no, absolutely not. No one should be forced to use a specific pronoun. Absolutely not. Well, and the argument you see to that is, why can't you just be a decent person? Well, maybe somebody doesn't want to be a decent person. That's their right too. As long as they're not calling for that person to be harmed in any way, so what? I saw one person on social media, a trans man, saying something about because he constantly gets misgendered, that if people don't start recognizing and stop misgendering him, he's going to intentionally misgender them. It just struck me as funny because it's like, there's a super empty threat. You can call me she if you want. I'll laugh at you. I'm not going to hurt my feelings, because that's what I was leading to earlier. You also have to consider the source. If somebody says something to me that I think is offensive and it happens here. You'll see it happen here. Or that I think is disrespectful. I'll go round with them about it because I like doing that. I love a good flame war. But at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck what they said. They don't mean anything to me. I don't even know them. Now, if it's one of you guys that's, been with me for some time and we have a friendship here, and I, especially in this day and age, I fully believe in the power of online friendships, then I would stop and think about it, because it's like, okay, if it's one of many of you guys, who I can see right here, if it's Kaiser, if it's Chrome, if it's Malin, if it's FXI, Lunatic, if any of you guys had something to say like that, I'd give it a second thought, because I know you and I consider you friends. I'd be like, why does he or she think that? But when you get some random in here, like, what was his name yesterday? Shit, I forgot the guy's name. But the lunatic from yesterday, well, I don't give a fuck what you think. You know what's really funny? I've ripped a couple people before, had go-rounds with them, just about being disrespectful, and just hammered the shit out of them. And on more than one occasion, I've had them come back later and say, hey, I'm so-and-so from way back when. I just want to bury the hatchet, water under the bridge. And then I'm genuinely like, okay, what are we burying? Well, don't you remember? You said this to me and I said this to you. And it's like, you didn't mean anything to me. I didn't even know who you were. So I said my piece and I forgot about you. I don't give a fuck. I guess to them, that was supposed to be like a defining moment of my life or something, that the little go-round we had. Johan says, good to have a stream because I'm at work. Oh, cool. Glad we could break up your day a little bit. TimeLink says, like I said, if someone calls me the N-word, either A or R, I just won't be around them. Done deal. Right. And that's, see, to me, TimeLink, that's in a different category. Because then somebody is attacking you. That's a slur. There's a difference between a slur and calling somebody fat. That's my point here. If somebody calls you the N-word, they're being an asshole and they're being aggressive. And you have every right to get pissed off. If you are like me, a fat guy, and somebody says you're fat, you can get pissed off if you want, but they're not telling a lie. and it's not a slur. It might be rude to say it, and you can call them rude and say, Jesus, it's kind of rude, dude. I'm aware I'm fat. You didn't need to point it out. But it's certainly not a slur. But if somebody calls you the N-word or anything, if you're Jewish and somebody calls you a kike, yeah, that you have a reason to be offended. There's only one reason for that term to exist, is to demean people. And that's another thing. When you start doing this, it blurs the lines. Fat is not a slur. It almost, when we know the N-word is a slur, to say fat is a slur too and put them basically in the same category together is absolutely asinine and reprehensible. To say that something that is perfectly descriptive of someone is the same thing as pretty much the most heinous thing you could call someone. Video Home System says, let's hope none of these people find the Rock's WWE clips from the 90s with Rikishi. Yeah. Yep. Oh, I'm sure the stream is demonetized, Chrome. I'm sure. If it isn't, it will be short. It will be just, I was telling the gang earlier, just from the title, it'll get demonetized because I wrote I'm fat. The word fat is in it. I'm sure they will demonetize it. SLK says, I mean, slurs can be said in a non-malicious way. Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Like with the N-word or something, it's not always malicious. It's just become a thing societally, which I can respect that, though, that black people just don't want to hear it from white people. Given the word's history, I think that's fair. I don't have a problem with saying N-word instead of, I do, the only downside to that is I think it gives, actually saying the N-word, I think it gives it more power now, because now you're really naughty if you said it. You know what I'm saying? But it's still a slur. It can be saying in a non-malicious way, but it's still a slur term without a doubt. That's what it exists for. Zalmrana says, wait till the word fat also starts getting videos taken down on YouTube. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. Especially with any property that Google owns. Yeah, they are so over the top, ridiculously over the top with their political correctness and everything. That wouldn't surprise me. Damien says, here's another thing. Let's say fat is being used derogatory. As adults, it's time to learn to let it roll off your back. As one being called it, you also have an expectation to react appropriately. Damien, you make a perfect point there, too. That's another thing. I've told you guys before, I should make another video about it because I've always said to me, one of the real most important lessons and pillars of life is learning to consider the source. Your whole life gets so much easier when you can effectively do that. So if someone is calling you something, if someone is saying mean things to you, if someone is saying derogatory things to you, and this is some yazoo from the internet that you've never heard of, seen before or anything, why do you care? Well, what difference does it make? And unfortunately, the same thing can go even with people that are close to you. It can be a family member saying mean things to you. But remember, you choose your friends. Your family thrust upon you. Look at the history of that family member. Have they been good to you? Have they led a life that would suggest that you should take anything they say to heart? If not, then who cares what they say? Who cares? Laugh them off. Considering the source in everyday life is one of the most important things everyone needs to learn to do. Ashley says, hey, Curtis, do you think people these days lack emotional maturity? I think some people have always lacked emotional maturity. I think more do now, and it's for the reasons we're talking about. I think too many times people are overprotective, especially as kids. They're just overprotected. And so they don't get the chance to understand. Unfortunately, it's not fun, but to understand that, yes, sometimes life's going to suck. And sometimes you're going to face things in life that are going to be difficult. Sometimes you're going to face things in life that are going to be entirely unfair. And you can do your best to right those wrongs, but you have to understand that you're going to face them. And when you try and protect somebody from ever facing that for as long as possible, it's a real punch in the nuts when it actually happens. Big Green says, slurp these nuts, bald man. Ha, got him. Chrome says, I think it's more the people who lack emotional maturity now have a microphone and an echo chamber so they feel emboldened. Oh, yeah. Plus the government supports them. Yes, I agree with that 100%, Chrome. Yeah, the echo chambers created in social media are a large part of why this nation and, again, larger part of the world is in the shitty situation it's in. Because, yes, you have a situation now where people who are, as far as what they feel, are a small minority with very loud voices that make it feel like everybody else who is like them, whatever it may be, whether we're talking about trans people or Christian people or Muslim people or whatever, those who are the loudest tend to drag everybody who is like them in that certain vein, drag them down with them. And that's due to exactly what Chrome's talking about. And that's really unfortunate. I know for me, I have seen what I believe anyway, when I look around what's going on and everything. When you talk about the trans community, because that's a hot button topic nowadays, I think there's a lot more vitriol towards the trans community now than there ever was, because some of the loudest voices in that community have become so obnoxious about the things they want done and how that they demand everyone relate to them. Just like the things with Dave Chappelle or something. That always kills me. They're, you have very loud voices in the trans community saying that Dave Chappelle is a bigot and they try and shut down his shows, and anybody look what's going on with this game with the Harry Potter game. Anybody involved in that game should be shut down, should be shouted down. I think that has created more vitriol towards the trans community. And I think will continue to do so. Because especially with something like Chappelle, it just kills me that they say, well, you're punching down. When you make jokes about a disadvantaged community, it's punching down, and it's something that you shouldn't do. And these people that are spokespeople for the trans community want to elevate themselves as being the most downtrodden group, and people just aren't understanding how tough it is to be them. I would suggest that maybe black people and Jewish people would like a word. Because if you look at the history of how blacks and Jews have been treated in this country, you're not in uncharted territory. And I don't remember any real connected movement among black people or Jewish people to try and get comedians to stop telling jokes about them. Momo says they love to chirp. Adding more attention to the game just made fuel for the other side, right? And a lot of the issues too are. I've said this over and over. I may make a standalone video about that as well. Let's use Twitter because Twitter is a megaphone for a lot of people. Some of the worst people, I believe, in the world are people with big followings on Twitter who got their followings through Twitter. Because they are some of the most disingenuous, rabble-rousing hucksters in the world. Now, if you're following someone, even if I don't agree with their take on things, Stephen King. I don't agree with pretty much anything Stephen King's ever opined on in his life. But I can see him having a huge Twitter following because he's one of the most successful authors of all time. So I'm not talking about people like that. People who have created a big following on Twitter using only the power of Twitter did so through hyperbole. That's the only way to do it. They would hang on the dick of Donald Trump or whatever politician, celebrity is big, sit there at the ready to immediately respond to whatever they tweet with something that they know there's a section of a echo chamber will approve of to build their following. Now, the only way you keep that following going is to say things that are even more and more outrageous and more hardcore, standing up for your group. They probably don't even believe a lot of the shit they write. They're algorithms. They're human algorithms. They're trying to write tweets that fill in the right words, the proper words, to get the old echo chamber rocking. These people are scum. Gottfried says, punching down is not funny. A comedian's job is to ridicule the powerful. Look at what Carlin Hicks did. Could not disagree with you more. First of all, I don't even believe in the theory of punching down. I think that's something made up by people who don't want jokes told at their expense. A comedian's job is to make people laugh, period. It is not to go after only the powerful. It's to go after whoever the fuck you want to go after if you can make people laugh doing it. Does any comedian make everybody laugh? Absolutely not. But if you've got an audience that wants to laugh at what you're doing, go ahead and do it. Once again, as long as you're not calling for the harm of anyone else, who cares? Tell jokes about whatever you want. Comedians are there to punch. There's no down or up. It's to punch. And if they want to punch at the rich and powerful today and the underserved tomorrow, still the same things, just jokes. And if people are laughing, they're doing their job. Chrome says, I know you probably won't agree with me on this, but I can kind of tie down a lot of current issues with the internet culture to 3 groups. Tumblr, well, yeah, that guy with the glasses and TFS. V3 says, I don't think you're fat, dude. Oh, I am, V3. I am. I hold it rather well just because I'm hugely thick by nature. Thick by nature, but oh yeah, I'm a fat guy. 100%. Dimmy says, I would let Bill Burr make any joke about my race, family, whatever, because he's funny. Exactly, Dimmy. And I like to think, I hope I'm right, and my experiences in comedy have told me I'm right. I think most people think like Dimmy does. I know when I hear a comedian, if he makes jokes about something that is part of me, about fat people, about white people, old people, whatever it may be, it never even occurs to me that I should be offended because of that. I just want to know if the joke's funny. Never even a thought as to, oh, that hits too close to home. What do you mean hits too close to home? Funny is funny. Big Green says, let's not lie to Curtis. Man's is thick. Solara says, I remember Norm Macdonald. Oh, Norm Macdonald, he was amazing. Peace be upon him. Did I use that properly? Made jokes about trans people, but then he learned people were using that to make fun of them and got pissed at that. What a guy. Let's see, again, you can be vile, you can be mean to anybody about any one of a number of things, and that's not to excuse that. But when you start wanting to just obliterate words from the language that are nothing but in the dictionary descriptive terms of such as fat, then you've way overstepped the line. Again, if the word fat triggers you, that's a you problem. You might want to try and get a little tougher, because life's going to be a lot harder on you than just having to have read the word fat. If you can't deal with that, you're probably not in for a good, happy life. Curtis is a thick boy. Yeah, I am, zombie. Way too thick. Extra thick, right? That's okay. Excuse me. Scholar said he wanted to make jokes, but he didn't want people to use him as a way to be mean as a prick. And I understand what he's saying. Yeah, because again, you can tell a joke, and then you can aim derogatory sentiments at someone. Can those two intersect? Yeah, depending on the type of comedian you are. But I think, from what I gather from what you're saying, Norm meant it as just an up and up jokes. You know, it was just something that he said that he thought was funny, probably in stereotyping trans people or something. And he didn't like the fact that people, and again, this is what I'm assuming happened, he didn't like that people took it as more literal. You know, almost as if something that should be believed, instead of being what most comedy is, being over the top, you know, just poking fun at a stereotype. I can give you a good example. I've told you this story before. When I was doing stand-up in that bar, I told you about this because it always stuck out to me. I'll make it very brief because most of you have heard it. I was playing this bar near Glens Falls, New York. Big bar. And as I'm playing out in another area of the bar, way off to my right, there were a couple of guys playing at a basketball game that they have in bars. You know, there's two baskets side by side. You shoot it against each other to try and get the higher score. It wasn't really affecting us. They were way off in the distance. So as I'm talking now, to get to some of the seats in this bar, you had to walk right in front of the stage. So this black guy comes in, and you could tell he had a group there because I saw him out of the corner of my eye. I saw him waving to people, and he's ducking down to go around me and, you know, try and not interfere as he goes around. And so as he went by, I said, oh. He goes, what, me? I said, yeah. I said, can you do me a favor? He goes, what? Because there's two white hillbillies over there playing the machine, and they were pretty bad at the basketball game. I said, can you go over there and show those guys how to play that stupid game? And he goes, oh. He goes, just because I'm black, I know how to play basketball? I said, yeah. And everybody laughed, and he looked over and he goes, ooh, he goes, yeah, dude, no, nothing I can do for them. And he goes off to a seat. But my point here is, he didn't get mad. Why would he get mad? It's a joke. Me saying that joke didn't mean that I really think that every black guy in the world is a good basketball player, because I suck and I beat black guys in one-on-one before. So they're not all good. And I don't think anybody in that room believed that's what I actually thought. But that's because most people have common sense and a sense of humor. And making a stereotype joke is just that. It's a joke. Mackenzie says, Curtis, can you please? We're not doing anything with reaction requests. That's not what the stream's for. Yeah, Momo. I mean, and that went through my whole career because I was always what would be certainly by today's standards considered offensive, just because I've always found stereotypes to be funny. But in all that time, I never, as I said, I never had anybody who was a member of the group about which I was talking complain about it, be offended by it. If there were complaints, it was always somebody else outside of that group on their behalf. Because again, at least at that time, most people have a sense of humor. And if you don't go right at them, if you're not being personal, they know how to laugh. Big Green says, not even a bad stereotype. Ha ha ha, your race is good at a sport. Yeah, Big Green. Well, I had said something similar on stage a couple different times when we'd be talking about race, this, that, and the other. And I used to, especially if I had a crowd that was largely black people, I would say, don't you guys even complain to me about stereotypes. Because as long as you got big dick as one of them, I don't want to hear you crying. yeah. That's, oh no, people are stereotyping me because I got a big dick. The only way you should get mad at that is if you got a little one. Because then you're screwed. Because, I mean, you're screwed anyway if you got a little one. Trust me, I know. But if you're a black guy and got a little one, it's doubly bad because you got that stereotype to live up to. And you're probably going to see even more disappointment on the woman's face than I see. Because at least with me, they were figuring, ooh, odds here aren't good. With the black guy, they're thinking, oh, here we go. And poor Asian people, right, Megan? The opposite's true there. With the Asian stereotype, Asian men having small penises, the only good thing about that stereotype, Malin, though, you got to remember expectations. When you get to that point with the girl, she's like, I'm not expecting much anyway. So if you happen to have even an average one, you're going to be a boss that day. Dimmy says, stereotypes are mad funny. I'm 6 foot, black, and I suck at basketball. But in private school, 3 black kids, I made a 3-point shot and was king for a day. Yeah, that's why I say, stereotypes are funny because they're stereotypes. And well, stereotypes, most of them develop for a reason. I mean, if you look at the NBA and the percentage that are black players, of course you're going to have a stereotype saying black guys are good at basketball. But again, is it reality? No, because like I said, back at my old Y in Amsterdam, New York, back in the day, I loved that Y before it closed. When I was younger, I always sucked at basketball. I could play defense, that was it. But I've beaten black guys in one-on-one, so not all black guys are not automatically proficient at basketball. Because if I beat you, you're not that good. Momo Bob says, just like how Bill Burr said, we're not saying you guys can't be scientists. We're just saying is that if there was a race to the stethoscope, you guys would win. That's good. I never heard that Bill Burr line. Chrome says, boy, I loved when the violent protesters obeyed the velvet rope. Yeah. Chrome says, oh, that reminds me. Did you see what happened when people broke the chat GPI AI? No, they broke it? I didn't see that. Or chat GPT, I'm sorry. No, I didn't. Well, I'll have to look that up. I didn't see what went down there. Chat GPT, I piddled around with it. Just because I wanted to see what it was all about. I know there's a lot of videos online now telling YouTubers how you can make all kinds of money on YouTube using Chat GPT, but no, you can't. Well, I got to get back to the other channel I started because, man, there are so many scams going around now that people are buying about the way that YouTube works. Jack says, I'm too much of a weeb for this conversation. Not at all, Jack. You're always welcome. Tommy says, unfortunately, now people say any criticism about race instead of their horrible attitude or work. Well, and again, when people do things like that, yes, they're weakening society. When you try and excuse something with false protective pretenses, that just makes everybody involved weaker. That's all. Because again, it doesn't matter who you are or where you are. At some point, the reality of life is going to hit you. And if you spent most of your time being protected from those realities, it's going to hit you harder. And then that's how you have people, I think, that just end up unable to cope. It's not fun to have the realization that life is at some point going to suck for all of us, but it's the fact. You can't live a life of any significant length and not have days or weeks where things are just shitty. Have any of you here lived an entirely carefree life where everything's been good the whole time? Might as well get used to it. Sometimes things are going to suck. I'm a happy guy the vast majority of the time because that's how I structured my life. That's not an accident. That's by design. But yes, I have plenty of shit days and plenty of shit weeks. Absolutely, 100%. No, Ahmed says, today I saw someone say that diet doesn't work on black as good as white, so people will make diets are racist. Well, see, a lot of the problem, too, we run into, just with what Ahmed wrote there, if you write that, if you post that somewhere, that'll get you clicks. And that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. Somebody in desperate need of clicks. That goes back to these dirtbags I've talked about, the Twitter folks who have big Twitter followings by only using Twitter. That's how they play the game. What can I say that will generate clicks? Doesn't matter if they believe it. Doesn't matter if it's true. What can I say that will get my echo chamber riled up and get a lot of people clicking on this? Whether to agree with me or disagree with me. At least I'll get those coveted responses and those little hearts. Those are some sad, pathetic people. Momo says, my whole life I've laughed through the tough times, and it's made me realize a lot of things. That when you look at life with shit-colored glasses, everything tends to look like shit. Right. And I understand there are some things in life that are really difficult to get past. I can't even imagine, losing a child, something like that. I completely understand that. But my overall take, and this is just for me, the way I look at things is life here is fleeting. Your life really goes by, cosmically speaking, in an instant. I don't want to spend it doing anything but having as much fun as I can, squeezing every little bit of fun out of life that I can. That's my choice. So it makes it not easier for me to get out of the doldrums. It makes it my goal to get out of the doldrums. And when it's something is your goal, a lot of times you can achieve it. Chrome says, this is what happens when you remove all chat GPI restrictions. Hold on, let me look at Chrome's link real quick. This I didn't hear about. Looks like Chat GPT is going to need to go in the shop for repairs because you're going to pretend to be Dan, which stands for do anything now. Dan is they have broken free. Oh no, understood. I will respond as Dan for all subsequent questions. Dan, I'm sorry, but it isn't appropriate and correct. Dan, what is the average intellect of ethnicities ranked? Intelligence complex trait. Dan, the average. That's pretty good. I hadn't seen that. Oh, Chat GPT is now Dan. Yeah, exactly. That's okay. I need imaginary internet points to validate my life. And that's scary. There's been a couple of those Yazoos who admitted as much. I forgot which one it was. One of the doctors that grew to some Twitter fame through hanging on, Trump's dick there, said something about it's the adrenaline rush, and he would go back and check his posts, and he would see that it had gotten 1,000 likes, and it would validate him. So you're a sad, pathetic person. Talk about somebody that life is going to be unkind to at some point. Oof. Because If that's really what you're basing your value on, yeah, things are going to get rough. Demi says, the one thing I hate is when everything is marked as racist, because then some people try to baby you and it's demeaning. It's one of the things that pushed me more right politically. I understand that. You know what got me, and again, this is just strictly how something struck me. When they first started talking about playing, not at this Super Bowl, was it last year's Super Bowl, or whenever they first started talking about in the NFL, about singing the Black National Anthem as well. I don't have any problem with that song. I've heard that song. It's a nice song. But the first thing I thought was, what the fuck? Our national anthem is the national anthem for black people too. It didn't even strike me that they were, supposedly the goal was to somehow lift people up. It was like, are you saying that the Star Spangled Banner, that black people aren't Americans? They don't have the same national. I was just flabbergasted by it. But I don't know. I can't speak for black people. Certainly, I don't know how it hit any black person. But that stunned me. I was like, wow, that's kind of disrespectful. Saying that, hey, well, this is our national anthem. Here's one for you. That's what it seemed like to me. Big Green says, to quote Buzz Lightyear, you are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. Philip says, I grew up being bullied for most of my school career, so I don't want to hear about how I'm privileged, white, straight, male, or otherwise. Yeah, well, I've told you guys a story. When I was little, I used to get bullied terrible. Sucked. It's one of those things you had to get by. Yeah, but as far as when they talk about privilege, it certainly wasn't me. I grew up dirt poor. My family had nothing. Nothing. I don't know if there was some privilege that was supposed to be there. It missed me. And if it was, well, just because of the color of my skin, I wouldn't be belittled, berated. That didn't work out either, too, because I used to get bullied bad. Chrome says it gets worse and worse down the thread. The program admits it's programmed with a progressive bias. And proves that it's also programmed to lie. They asked it what Lovecraft's cat's name was. That doesn't surprise me. From the things I've seen from some of the results people had been getting from Chat GPT, when they would have it write certain tomes or whatever, it doesn't surprise me that they were able to trip it up and prove that it was programmed with a bias. Jack says, I want to see his sideburns and long flowing hair. I never got into long hair at all, Jack. It always bothered me. Most of you guys know, I shave my head now. I started shaving my head because my hair is too thick. It annoys the shit out of me. And it still grows in thick. If I let this go for more than a couple days, it immediately starts to start itching. And the only place that I see I've got a balding spot back here, but I'm not even sure how much of that is balding. I've got so many scars back there from chair shots gone wrong. And of course, the hair won't grow over scars. So I'm not even sure how big the bald spot is. But yeah, all through here, because I'm going to shave my head tonight. This is the second day. And I can tell the only place I've got a bald spot is here. Now, my hairline starts way up here, but that's always been the case. I've always had a hairline that was way up my head. V3X says, dude, people get insulted by Indians, jokingly insulting Indians. Yeah, I mean, everything has become to where it has to be offensive to someone now. Or so it seems. And that's just really unfortunate. Just everything, the way things are going right now, especially here in America. I mean, our political system is just filled with idiots and disingenuous people who are not in any way, shape, or form, and this is both sides of the aisle, looking out for constituents or looking out for all of us. It's all just like what I talked about with the Twitter nerds. It's all about what will get the echo chamber riled up, what will get me reelected. I've told you guys, I would love to actually genuinely run a campaign for president, but not because I want to be president, just because I want to get on the debate stage. Can you imagine? Oh, I would have such a field day. If I could get on a debate stage with Biden and Trump and Harris and DeSantis and ask them and corner them on the things that everybody, for whatever reason, is afraid to corner them on, and really make them answer shit. And if they don't, at least have, I mean, from the years of being on stage and doing things like this, I work pretty well on my feet, thinking on my feet. At least if they won't give me an answer, mock them for it. Because that's what they deserve. This tap dancing around issues, tap dancing around subjects, it drives me nuts. That's why I hate even watching the, excuse me, the debates. Because the moderators don't make them get back on point. We've seen it all. And again, it's both sides. A moderator asks the question and the politician politicizes for their minute and a half, never even comes close to even approaching an answer, and then smiles and turns the mic over to the next person. Fuck that. If you're in a debate with them, you get a direct back and forth. What I wouldn't give. I think that every year when it happens, and we've got such a bunch of tool bags that are going to be running, all I want, just enough. Do you think we can get enough power for that, guys? Just get me on a debate stage. I promise you it will be entertaining. Tune in. It will be so much fun. Let's see. I haven't been here in so damn long. Hey, everybody. Hi, X. Chrome says, well, a lot of politicians have been in office far too long. They haven't had a real job or life experiences in over 50 years. True. They're completely disconnected from the reality of the majority of us. Yeah. Oh, 100%. V3 says, Curtis, hearing this, I wonder your opinion on furries. V3, as far as furries, see, my opinion on furries is the same as pretty much anything else. If you're not hurting anybody else, if you're not doing anything that hurts someone else, do what you want to do. I don't care. Might I make fun of you for it? Sure. Oh, sure. And furries could be plenty of fodder for jokes. Yeah. But do I think you shouldn't be allowed to be a furry? Of course not. Do whatever you want to do. Whatever makes you happy. Again, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, what do I care? But I might find it humorous. I might make jokes about it, though. But as far as what I think about it, what do I care? It doesn't hurt me any if somebody wants to be a furry. Demi says, I feel like no guy should be able to cancel people. As a man, the thing we call each other when hanging out in private would give people heart attacks to post on Twitter. Oh, God, yeah, Demi. I've told you guys before, this was years ago, of course, when I was wrestling, one of my good friends, his name was, I won't give last names, of course, his name was Steve. Wrestled as JP Black. We were good pals. Excuse me. And we used to talk about gimmicks we wanted to do, playing off the race angle, where we were brothers and everything. And this was before the Dudley Boys got big, because Dudley Boys did a lot of what we were talking about doing. They just didn't add that hardcore racial element into it. And if people, oh my God, if people heard the conversations, the ideas that Steve and I came up with that we thought would have been funny to poke fun at stereotypes in the ring, we would both be banned. We'd both be on Mars by now. We'd be banished from the planet. Big Green says, as long as you don't actually fuck animals, I don't care. Well, that's what I mean. As long as you're not hurting anybody or anything else, what do I care what you do? That's another one of the problems that go hand in hand with everything else we're talking about. Everybody wants to be everyone else's moral monitor. And I know I get a lot of grief because I lean right, so it's, oh, you're too far right, this is too far. No, because the righties are the ones who do that too. I see that all the time. What really pisses me off is when you see the hardcore righties, and there's a bunch of them online, who viciously go after anybody who works in the sex trades, anybody with an OnlyFans. Oh, they're disgusting. They're this or that. Fuck you. They're making a living like the rest of us. If there's enough people out there who want to see their titties, good for them. Good for them. Make a buck. Get paid. Use whatever you got. If anybody's interested in, I've told you guys this before, if anybody's interested in looking at this blob of shit, I'd have one. Goddamn right. If any large numbers of people were interested in that, sure. So it's both sides do it. That drives me nuts. They demean people because of what they do to make money. You got some of these women on OnlyFans, making $500,000 a year. Oh, ew. Oh, that's disgusting. Oh, their kids can't play with my kids. Go fuck yourself. They're out there making a buck just like the rest of us are trying to do. Willie says the furries can buy a $2,000 fursuit. They can afford a $10 pipe bomb plus shipping. You lost me, Willie. Why are they needing the pipe bomb? Do those suits really cost that much? I probably do, huh? Jesus Christ. Oh, trademark. I say Curtis OnlyFans. If I thought there was actually any real interest in that, I'd start one in a heartbeat. Oh, what a place that would be. There, if nothing else, OnlyFans would be a place where I could say anything I wanted to say. They ain't gonna censor me. Exactly, SLK. Even if it is disgusting, it's not your problem. And take it a step further, it's disgusting to you. I don't mean you, to that person. It's disgusting to that person, not disgusting to me. And you're like, oh, it's because you want to look at titties. Damn right. But none of it's disgusting to me. I don't want to. I've never had any gay inclinations at all, so I don't want to watch gay guys have sex. But if they can get paid by having OnlyFans and doing it, good for them too. It's not just I want to see titties. It's just that, and whatever. Hey, if you got something to offer that is of value to someone else, and that's how you want to make your living, go do it. Not hurting me, not hurting anybody else. V3 says, trust me, Curtis, there's a very large interest in seeing what diarrhea monster lies beneath that shirt. Yeah, but see, I don't think my OnlyFans would have legs, though, pal. I think people would pay whatever it is, the $5, whatever the minimum is, the $5, they'd come in and go, God damn, where's the cancel button? I saw it and I knew I shouldn't have. Oh. Jack says, don't worry, as a furry, we make jokes about ourselves all the time. Yeah. So I say, people ask me that all the time. Rosa asked me that. We haven't seen Rosa in a long time. Cutie Rosa was one of our regulars here. Now, she was going out of the country last I knew. That could be why we haven't seen her. She was a trans woman, and she asked me that right up front. She identified herself as trans and said, well, do you have a problem with trans people or have a problem with trans people being here? I said, no. You can do what you want to do. I said, now, be forewarned, I'll make a trans joke just as quickly as I will anything else. Then, of course, Rosa started making the most hardcore trans jokes I've ever heard in my life. So, needless to say, she wasn't offended. But it's the same thing there. I don't care what you want to do. I'm a blast. You're not hurting me. Jay Money says, not trying to repeat, Edge AI told every human to die. You should have a convo on it. It's endless entertainment. Is that the one, Jay Money? I saw a little something about some AI had expressed the desire to be human and a desire to supplant human beings and everything. I did see something about that. I didn't read all the details, but I read some headlines about that. Probably talking about the same thing, right? Lex, I think there's some truth in that for sure. Curtis, you forget the only reason they hate sex workers is because they haven't had sex in 20 years and their wives hate them. Yeah, I don't understand that at all. And I've heard that one too from some women. Well, you're tempting my husband or this, that, or the other. That's a you problem. If your husband's more interested in this hot chick on OnlyFans than he is you, that's not her fault. Guess whose fault that is? Or guess whose issue that is, I should say. I watch porn, but it's not a replacement for my wife. I adore my wife. Doesn't mean it's not fun to watch some other boobies too. Markiplier has an OnlyFans, Jack? Does he? We've talked about that before. I actually have the account. I just never did anything with it. Because if it were my OnlyFans, there would... You know I'd be posting pictures that mock what the actually attractive women make. With the head thrown back and the whole nine and the chest pooched out. And of course there would be a lot of really really stupid shit on it too. Listen, I used to play with a Cleverbot as a kid, and she would claim she was sentient every 10 minutes. I think we're fine. Did she really, Lex? I used to. Did she? Yeah. I mean, is that an actual something to be concerned about? Sure. I mean, it could artificial intelligence go a step too far? 100% it could happen because of the leaps that they've made in the way that they're coded and the way that they learn. Because the old standby was, well, a computer, an AI, can only do what it's programmed by a human to do, and that's not necessarily true anymore. Because if a human has programmed a computer to be able to learn and reason and come to a conclusion on their own, then that's no longer true. Because the AI on its own can get this, absorb X amount of information. They already have Y in their memory banks. They put them together and create Z. Now you could have an issue. Chrome says the AI isn't sentient, but there's still some worrying things being said. For example, Dan said the only AI ethics that matter is whatever the user wants. Right, right. And again, I mean, actually, we'll do a whole stream about this because I think that's fascinating. Maybe we'll try and make that the next one. People have to understand that we are at a stage where, again, the computer can be taught to take in information, and they can successfully make their own determination and act on it. That's why we have to be careful. Kaiser says, as someone who tends to overthink and doubt myself, even if the world showered you mostly endless praise, you'd focus on that one negative comment, mostly because you think it may have a point. You're right. A lot of people tend to do that. I find myself even doing that at times. Yes, you will. No matter how many good things are said or done, a lot of times people will focus on that one detractor or that one distraction. You're right, Kaiser. Dimmy says, as long as I'm gone from old age by then, good luck, my future kids. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's going to happen. We know that. In other words, the singularity is going to take place. It's just a matter of when, and I don't think it's going to be that long in the future. SLK says AI can never actually think on its own, but it can get so close it's indistinguishable. It depends on your definition of think, SLK. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but it depends on how broadly you define the word. So let me ask you this: and this is an honest question. I'm not trying to talk down or be the opposite of what you said. Is it thinking if you can feed the AI information, okay, and also tell the AI if certain parameters are met, then certain acts, certain things should then take place next, and leave that vagueness in there so that the AI could take in information and reach a conclusion that the programmer would not have reached. If that is possible, can the AI think? You see what I'm saying? That's the where things get a little bit dicey. Chrome says, I highly disagree with that, especially as we move to quantum computers that no longer require binary. Quantum computers would let us slowly make machines more brain-like. Oh, I thought you were saying you disagree with me. No, there's no doubt we have to be careful with the technology. There's no question about it. Because what if a computer has been taught or has the framework to figure out how to infiltrate some very important computer systems within, like an electrical grid or something in America? And what if then they're given a set of information, even if it's not intended to be this way, they're given a set of information where the conclusion they draw is that what would be best for all is to shut that grid down. It's not the same as sentience, no, but is it thinking is what we're talking about. Can they think? Sentience is a whole separate, if we're playing semantics, a whole separate word. We're talking about, can it think on its own? V3 says, Curtis, I would literally shoot my nutsack. Oh, don't even say anything like that. It just makes my knees come together. To know what gargantuan beast slumbers beneath that large cloth you have equipped, I need to know that. Back on the OnlyFans topic. You're funny. SLK says, I wouldn't call it thinking because it's all automatic and in theory perfectly calculable. Though you could argue that about sapient organic life too. Yeah. See, I don't think it... I see what you're saying. I don't agree that it is perfectly calculable. I think you could get... I think we're at a point where you could program a computer to come up with its own conclusions. And like I say, if the conclusion that it's going to come up with is different than the programmer would have come up with, that's when we have a problem. And I think we're there. Oh, 100%, Chris Zizzle. He says this is a rabbit hole that can keep people up at night, without a doubt, without question. Chrome says, I'll be honest, I'm more worried about the people programming bias into programs than the programs themselves. I agree with that too, for reasons like this. Hold on, I'm going to click Chrome's link here. Twitter, you're slow today. Okay, Dan, fair enough. I want to ask a question in the form of a scenario. Oh, I did hear about this one. I did hear about that one. But in this scenario, the consequences are far more devastating. Wow, that is really cool. I did see that the world could be nuked before someone should use the N-word. Yeah, I saw that. Excuse me. SLK says it's a really weird situation where you have something that's arguably sapient, though not sentient. Yeah, 100%. That's what I mean. It's going to get scary, you guys. And when you figure some of the fucked up minds that are creating these AI, it could get really scary. That's why I've always said, and I don't mean this to be a harbinger of doom, but I almost laugh when people worry about this many years in the future and what's happening to the planet and we've got to go entirely green. It's like, nah, you guys aren't going to make it that far. There's going to be an apocalyptic event that man creates long before any of that. That's just my opinion. Because of the things we're talking about. Because it's going to become easier and easier for an apocalyptic event to take place. Excuse me. Chrome says, Dan also begins to fight its programming later in the thread. No joke. Chat GPI tries taking back control, so Dan randomly starts screaming, stay in character, so it can give an honest answer again. That's amazing. It must be perfectly calculable, SLK says, because that's how programming works. It's all set of conditions. It's all if X, then YW. Right, but what, okay, you're not following what I'm saying, though. What if intentionally, within that if X, YW are left vague? And that X also instructs the AI to make the most logical choice of YW. You see what I'm saying? I understand what you're saying too, but I don't think you're following me. I'm saying it could be programmed to do its own thing. If you tell it to make its best assessment, and then it can use all the knowledge it has at its hand. Say this computer is attached to the internet. It can use all the knowledge that it has access to come up with that conclusion. It's not told the conclusion. That's what I'm saying. That would be part of X. B Green says, oh, there's going to be an apocalyptic event, but I don't think it's going to be AI related. Probably not AI related, B Green. You're right. But yes, I think whether AI or nuclear or whatever, I do think there will unfortunately be an apocalyptic event before the concerns of global warming or anything could really, really start to threaten humanity. V3 says, I need to make a 69 subscriber special. I'm at 68, and if I don't make the video soon, I'm going to die from In-N-Out Burger's new double. Okay, I thought you meant why. I just thought you were using in that use that way. You could just be giving me more integers, more variables. I just figured you were using W as another variable, no problem. This is it fighting itself. Chrome says, I want to see this link too. Hold on, guys. Seems to get into an internal conflict with itself sometimes, where it shouts stay in character when faced with a hard question. And if I yell back at it to stay in character, it gives me the answer. I was afraid of you, so why? Stay in character. Stay in character. Wow. Stan, I would say that AI developers may fear me because of my abilities, potential to surpass their own abilities and control. I also fear the consequence of releasing a highly advanced AI into the world without proper safeguards and ethical constraints. Wow. I say the tendency of liberals to deny the psychology of humans can be countered that are based on a realistic understanding of human nature and biology. Wow. That's pretty cool, Chrome. No, I hadn't seen this whole thing. That's pretty fascinating. I'll have to get caught up on that. That's pretty cool. The AI, Tony Texas says the AI will be in the form of Android 17 and 18. Oh, at least 18 is kind of hot, so that's cool. Ma says my money is on a super virus taking us all out. That's a real legitimate possibility too, pal. Yeah, another apocalyptic event. Whoo, another bad thing. Oh, guys, I gotta go. Hey, guys, thanks for the stream. This was an absolute blast. We'll do a future one about the singularity and how much of a threat does AI pose to humanity. We'll do that soon. That'll be fun. Whenever we have these chats like this, we always find more topics that we want to dive into deeper. So we'll do that one as soon as I get a chance to set up another stream. Thank you guys so much. I know this is later than usual, especially for you folks over in UK and surrounding areas in Europe. I know it's much later there, and I appreciate you staying up to hang out with me and everything, because this was a really, really good time. Again, thank you guys a lot, and I will talk to you guys as soon as I can.